happening, guys? Chris, VA Travels, here in downtown Fredericksburg, off Washington Avenue, kind of Fredericksburg's Monument Avenue. And just gonna take a walk down, just take a look at the statues and monuments. Let's check out some of these statues. And first of all, you'll see a lot of nice historic homes. I need to come back sometime, do some research, and take a closer look at some of these houses. As you'll see, a lot of Victorian houses. Also, you've got the Kenmore plantation. I've made a video on that if you want some more information. And yeah, at the intersection of Lewis Street, right down here, and then Washington Avenue, you've got the Confederate Cemetery right there. And also on the other side, it's kind of joined with the Fredericksburg Cemetery. I've got a video on that. First monument over here, and this is dedicated to George Rogers Clark. And he was born out in Albemarle County, 1752. And I don't know why the statue is in Fredericksburg. If anybody knows, yeah, just please put it down in the comments. Cool little bellflower design going around the top. Yeah, died 1888, and he was known as the George Washington of the Western Theater of the Revolutionary War. Moving a little bit closer so you can read. And to tell you a little bit about his military career, he began as a private in Lord Dunmore's War, and then was appointed Lieutenant General by Patrick Henry. During the Revolutionary War, when the Continental Army couldn't spare any soldiers for the Western Theater, he pretty much took it upon himself to raise up troops and started an offensive against the British. Ended up taking control of many British forts north of the Ohio River, which put an end to Indian raids and Britain's influence in the area. The Paul Revere chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution out of Muncie, Indiana, devoted this tablet. Okay. No hero of the American Revolution served with more sacrifice, fortitude, and dauntless courage. And no hero has accomplished greater victories against greater odds. All right. The old Northwest owes its freedom from the British tyranny to this distinguished patriot and soldier. All right, that's pretty cool. It was dedicated April of 1929. So, wow, this thing's almost been here 100 years. That's pretty cool. And a little side note, he's the brother of William Clark of Lewis and Clark fame. So that's pretty neat. And his brother was born in Caroline County. So, but yeah, again, I don't know why the statue is here. I mean, it's cool that it is, but, and you'll see the Hugh Mercer statue right down there. Take a closer look at that. Yeah, like I say, a lot of Victorian homes all around. And I'll walk over real quick to take a look at the Kenmore house. And for those that don't know, this is where Betty Washington lived, George Washington's sister. She and her husband, Fielding Lewis. Oh, yeah, Fielding Lewis is the great uncle of Meriwether Lewis of the Lewis and Clark fame. So how about that? Ties to both. But all right, little plaque there going back to 1970, and you'll see just a classic Georgian house. So again, I've got a video on this. Yeah, pretty cool, hipped roof. But all right, let me go on up and take a look at Hugh Mercer. While I walk over, I want to give a shout out to new Patreon subscriber Rue. Actually, she's been with me for a while, but just wanted to say thanks for your support. All right, here he is. Another hero of the American Revolution. Great bronze statue. General Hugh Mercer looking over the battlefield. A quick side note. He's got quite a distinguished military career. He was actually at Culloden during the Jacobite Rebellion, and he served under Bonnie Prince Charlie, so that's pretty cool. I guess during the clearances, he ended up coming over here, fleeing Scotland, and started up a medical practice. He was involved in the French and Indian War. That's where he met George Washington. George Washington suggested that he move to Fredericksburg, so he came here to start up his apothecary shop and medical practice. And then it fought in of course, the American Revolution. And so, let's see, Hugh Mercer, Brigadier General of the United States Army. Let me get in a little bit closer so you can read. He died January 12, 1977, the Battle of Princeton up there in New Jersey. And I've got some old drone footage of this I'll stick in. Oh, cool. All right. Betsy Ross flag down here. But up on the side, I forgot this thing was sculpted by Edward Valentine. And it was dedicated in 1906, although I think that says 1905 right there, but keep walking around. Oh, and he's got a lot of great sculptures from that time period. He did the Robert E. Lee sculpture at Washington and Lee, and I believe he did some of the sculptures there that were on Monument Avenue. Pretty cool design down by the base. Oh yeah, and great detail. The back of his coat, scabbard on the ground. And to tell you some more about his military career, he was out there at Fort Duquesne during the French and Indian War under General Braddock, where he was wounded in the arm. He was shot in the arm. Also, he was there at the crossing of the Delaware with George Washington. I had forgotten about that. James Monroe was also there at the crossing. Okay, yeah, sun's hitting it good now. Let me tell you about his dramatic death there at the Battle of Princeton. The story goes his horse was shot out from underneath him. He was surrounded by redcoats. They mistook him for George Washington. Yeah, story goes he fought to the death and he was stabbed, he was killed, he was stabbed 7 times. And his wounded body was placed underneath an oak tree that was later named the Mercer Oak. Pretty dramatic. So to finish it up, I'll tell you about some of his descendants. And his grandson was Virginia Governor John Mercer Patton. Underneath him, a couple Confederates. There's Lieutenant Colonel Waller T. Patton and Colonel George Smith Patton. Then down another line, there's Confederate General Hugh Weedon Mercer. And then further down the line, he's related to George Patton of World War II fame. So, yeah, a lot of general and soldiers down the line. So, all right, well, that's all I've got for Hugh Mercer. So, let me keep walking down. All right, so we've got to walk down a couple blocks. Oh, cool. Daffodils are popping. Yeah, a couple blocks to go to get to the next couple. So you've got the Statue of Religious Freedom down there, and then you've got the Mary Washington Monument to the left. Nice home right here. And all of these houses would have been built post-Civil War. There was nothing here at the time of the war. And this is the caretaker's house. Originally the stone house right here. Cool Palladian window right there. And all this was part of the Kenmore plantation at the time. All right, so let me walk over and take a look at this big obelisk dedicated to Mary Washington, the mother of George Washington. And of course, she lived just a few blocks down. You can visit her home. Oh yeah, so they've got lights on this thing. The cornerstone was laid in 1833. President Andrew Jackson was here. And wow, that's almost 200 years old. So, yeah, Mary, the mother of Washington. The original structure was a little bit different. The base had a bunch of columns on it. But yeah, they didn't complete it originally. It sat vacant, of course, through the Civil War, then through Reconstruction. And they got around to finishing it in 1894. And President Grover Cleveland was here for that dedication. And yeah, this is the Gordon family cemetery over here. And of course, they lived over at Kenmore. They're the ones who named it Kenmore. When Betty Washington lived there, it wasn't called Kenmore. And named after their ancestral home, again out there in Scotland. But I'll just pan across. Susan Gordon. Can't read the rest. Looks like maybe a couple child graves over there, possibly. Oh, they've got this one braced up. That's cool. They put it back up. And there's George Gordon, looks like. By her country women. And this is the first monument in the United States that was dedicated by women for a woman. So there you go. Oh, also 1954, Dwight Eisenhower was here, laid a wreath at the bottom. And oh, and she's actually, technically, from what I read, not necessarily buried right here, but somewhere in the area. And I'm wondering, how do you not know where the mother of the our most famous president was buried? But yeah, she would come to this area. I'll walk over there real quick. Oh, I'll hold the let you pause and read. Yeah, Daughters of the American Revolution. But yeah, she liked to come and say prayers over at this meditation rock. I'll walk over real quick and film that. And originally, the original grave that was in this area, there was just a big stone that was placed here by George Washington. Oh yeah, tennis courts over here. And you see we're up on a nice hill. Here it is, right here, Meditation Rock. Meditation Rock here, Mary Ball Washington prayed for the safety of her son and country during the dark days of the Revolution. This tablet was presented by the National Mary Washington Memorial Association, chartered February of 1890. Wow. Yeah, and she attended the St. George's Church over there on Princess Anne Street. So, cool rock. And over here, this big oak, it's the Colonel George Eckridge Memorial Tree. Oh, cool, yeah. So Colonel George Eckridge Memorial Tree, planted April 29th, 1937. Made this oak tree from Sandy Point, Westmoreland County, Virginia, home of Colonel George Eckridge, who was guardian for Mary Ball, shelter her last resting place. Okay, so it's kind of looking over her grave. All right, that's cool. Yeah, and she was pretty much orphaned. Her mother died at the age of 3. Her father died when she was 12. So yeah, ended up being raised by George Eckridge. Pretty thick trunk on this thing. Some vines growing on it. But yeah, let me walk down, just take a look at the front of Meditation Rock. Okay, so whoop, I have to watch my step. All right, yeah, obviously they're playing pickleball over there. I hear the dinging, and you don't see people playing tennis as much. Okay, so it's got the little pickleball, little yellow things on the fence, but yeah, here it is, the front of Meditation Rock. And you could picture Mary Ball, who would become Mary Ball Washington, praying on this thing. Praying for George's safe return. Okay, well, cool. All right, let me walk over and take a look at this statue to religious freedom. The stairway is closed, so let me walk around. Big old stone chimney on the back of this thing. I don't know if this is a private residence, so I'm afraid to get too close. Although looking through the window, I don't see much in there. But it's got an address on it though. I did film it way back when. when I made a video on Mary Washington's house. But again, that's the overseer's house, and I can tell you one of the descendants, one of the Goricks, lived in there. Can't remember her name off the top of my head, but some of you will be know the Goricks Pharmacy there in town that's been there since the 1800s. But yeah, little statues right over here. Let me walk over and take a closer look. Oh, so Big Queen Anne over here on the corner. Yeah, again, I'm going to come back and do a video on some of the houses. Yep, there she is, a younger picture. Mary Ball, Washington. And this is actually Thomas Jefferson's Religious Freedom Monument. Just a big stone block. It was moved to this location in 1977. But it was originally off Barton Street, kind of near the Mercer School. Not that far away, probably less than a mile. But it was originally dedicated October 16th, 1932 on George Washington's 200th birthday. And let me take a closer look. All right, so religious liberty from a meeting in Fredericksburg, January 13th, 1777. And yeah, they met at Whedon's Tavern off Caroline Street, the intersection of Caroline and William Street. It ended up burning down, I believe, in 1806. It burned down. But a committee of revisers appointed by the General Assembly of Virginia, composed of Thomas Jefferson, George Mason, some pretty big names, Edmund Pendleton, George Wythe, okay, I didn't know he was here, and Thomas Ludwell Lee, to settle the plan of operation and to distribute the work. Yeah, authored by Thomas Jefferson. Okay, so pretty cool. A couple plaques down below. Let me see over here, in memory and appreciation of Dr. Kurt Leidecker, passed away in 1991, founder and director of the Thomas Jefferson Institute for the Study of Religious Freedom. Okay, so let me see what this one says. January 13th, 1977, in a rededication ceremony, the Thomas Jefferson Institute for the Study of Religious Freedom, with the support of the Fredericksburg Bicentennial Commission, in the presence of the mayor and representatives of various faiths, affix the above plaque to this monument, whose removal from Barton Street was funded by the City Council. The original plaque appears on the reverse side of the monument. Walk over and look at the reverse side. Okay, so you can see where they chiseled this thing out of the quarry or wherever they got the stone. Maybe they got it here at the quarries along the Rappahannock. Alright, so this memorial marks the site of a celebration on October 16th, 1932, again George's 200th birthday, by representatives of the leading religious faiths in America. Yes, separation of church and state as the Virginia Bill for establishing religious freedom is outlined. Okay, again, George Washington, George Wythe, George Mason, erected 1932. And down here, placed here by the Rappahannock Assembly, Knights of Columbus. You have to film this with my phone. For some reason, my gimbal gets weird when I point it down. But yeah, placed here by the Rappahannock Assembly, Knights of Columbus, in honor of religious freedom and the 225th anniversary of the drafting by Thomas Jefferson. Pretty good shot with the Mary Washington Memorial in the background. And yeah, so the Statute of Religious Freedom, it was passed by Virginia's General Assembly in 1786. It granted freedom of religion and established the separation of church and state. Served as a precursor for the First Amendment's Religious Clause. And it disestablished the Church of England. And it's one of 3 accomplishments that Thomas Jefferson put on his epitaph. The other being the Declaration of Independence, and then also the founding of the University of Virginia. Pretty cool. Well, that wraps it up. That's all the monuments and statues off Washington Avenue. And I'll just take a look at this church. This is the Common Ground Church. Big old steeple up there, cool arched window. Of course, you've got the ox-eye window and attachment to the side. Alright, yeah, so, oh, cool gambrel roof on that thing. But, alright, let me get out of here. As always, like and subscribe. See you guys on the next one.